Happy Thanksgiving, Magic players.
Happy Thanksgiving, Magic player.
It is Thanksgiving today, and we're back already with a new episode of EDH Takes. You never think you would see it. What is this, like a 2-day turnaround?
Pretty
between
poggers.
episodes?
Yeah.
Yeah, because, as you'll see, we've got a pretty easy topic lined up. But first, I'm Elijah Samuelson.
And I'm Spencer Cook.
Thank you for listening to this episode. It's going to be a lot of fun. We had a little drink on before starting.
You voted, and we have we've honored the vote a little bit. Not quite drunk, but you know, yes. I hope it'll do.
Just a little tippled.
Yeah. But today, we're going to be talking about. Well, let me just back up for a second. What's the most important thing for a holiday episode, Eli? And I'll answer that for you. It's putting as little effort as possible into the episode because you're out enjoying your holiday.
It's the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want from... We're working on the holidays.
Yeah.
So you get what you get.
The last episode was about expectations. Don't expect something crazy on the holiday, of course.
Well, one thing you can definitely expect, and you will always see, is... when shows go a certain length of time, they run out of ideas. Mm-hmm. And they do this thing called the clip show to buy them time until they get their next idea.
Exactly.
So we thought it would be fun to go through and, it's thematic. We're going to give thanks for all the growth we've had.
Yeah.
And some Magic-related stuff, some cards, some sets, but we wanted to kind of go through and look over our episodes we've had so far and just kind of talk and deconstruct some stuff. Mm-hmm. Look behind the curtain.
Maybe, give you some insight, maybe say what we learned or things that we got wrong pretty poorly or, stuff like that. So why don't we start with everybody's favorite episode, EDH Takes Episode 0, the pilot episode, the unreleased until now.
Yeah, the secret episode, but we are planning on putting the link to it in the description.
So if you want a bonus episode of EDH Takes, it was recorded I think in November of 2020 or something along those lines.
Sounds right, yeah.
And it was a set review of Zendikar Rising. We don't really do set reviews, but we really wanted to. We were just kind of getting into it. And
we wanted to test out the dynamic and see how easy it would be to carry a conversation about Magic and Commander for that length of time. And I think it went around 2 hours.
Yeah.
It was kind of fun. It was kind of exhausting because we had a lot of cards on there to go through.
And the best part is we did all the... when I say set review, I think we reviewed every legendary creature. I think that's what we did. Or did we? No, we did more,
nearly
too.
Ever.
Sorry.
Nearly everyone.
We left out the best legendary creature on accident, Omnath, Locust of Rage. Locust of Mana? No, what is his name? It's not Locust of Rage.
The
4-color Omnath.
4-color one.
Yeah. We left him out on accident, which is kind of funny, because I do honestly think that's the best card.
I remember us listening to it afterwards and realizing that, and then saying, you know what? Let's not even acknowledge it. Let's just leave it out. It's kind of a good meme.
Yeah. But what did you learn from that episode, Eli?
I learned how wonderful the words like and are from listening to it.
And I learned how wonderful it is to not have to do set reviews.
Yeah, that was actually... So we're going to talk about it in a little bit, but we don't really do set reviews around here.
No, the most we do is maybe kind of a mini selection of cards from sets every once in a while. Yeah. I think we've done that twice at this point.
Yeah, I think the main problem with a set review is per each set, there are some cards you can clearly see were designed at least a little bit with Commander in mind. That might not always be the case, and there are definitely cards that aren't designed for Commander that we like and we play with.
Yeah.
And so we thought maybe we could have a different perspective on that, but there's also some things you just kind of have to address, such as the legendary creatures, or some very blatant
staples,
cards. New staples.
Like that white Blasphemous Act card that just came out. Vanquish the
Horde, yeah. So we felt like cards like Vanquish the Horde, or cards like Smothering Tide, you get these cards. There's nothing really that unique to say about them aside, unless you're going to say, this card really isn't that good. But then, sometimes you just be lying.
Yeah.
And we try to have some unique takes and perspectives.
But we're genuine. We're not hamming up our takes to be controversial.
Yeah, if there's a good card, we're not going to say Ancestral Recall wouldn't be playable in Commander.
No, I wouldn't say that.
That's crazy.
But, so let's move on. We got a lot. We got 20 episodes plus some other videos that we've done to go through, so let's not dwell too much on episode 0.
You can listen to that episode.
Yep, it'll be in the description or the comments or something like that.
Oh boy. We got episode 1, Boros, MLD is not the answer. I feel like this episode went really well because it was something that... So there are things in Magic that I'm pretty passionate about, but I try to keep an open mind and not feel like too big for my britches, I guess, and feel like I'm some kind of expert on stuff. That's maybe one thing I feel pretty confident in my knowledge of.
Mm-hmm. The Boros mythos.
Yeah, Boros cards.
Yeah. And interestingly enough about this Boros episode this was our first episode because it was a topic that we felt at the time really weren't many Commander players or podcasts, stuff like that, weren't really saying what we felt about it. And it was interesting because we kind of laid out this idea of Boros has access to all of these effects like card advantage and mana ramp and stuff like that, all the things Commander decks need to do, before what was essentially the year of Boros, right? Since then.
This was recorded, I believe, on January 1st, New Year's Day.
Yeah.
And
before sets like Strixhaven, Kaldheim, all these things.
In the spring, we had the Strixhaven Commander decks with cards such as Osgir, and we're going to talk about that later, but there was kind of this Boros renaissance around then. And
I know at one point we talked about how the professor made a video talking about, the new Strixhaven Boros, or Lorehold, I suppose, stuff, and he was saying stuff along the lines of, this is a new Boros, and if they return to old Boros, it's a mistake, and, they're regressing. But Eli, I think you and I definitely hold the position that this new stuff that Boros is doing, they always had access to it, and they always were able to do it, just not as, it wasn't as explicit as it is now.
Yeah, and we talk about my my kind of a little bit cringy mantra that I had created, the 3 R's of Boros, and that literally is what they did with Lorehold.
Yeah.
And pretty much what we were saying in the video is that thing existed.
Yeah.
You could do that with white cards and red cards. It was just rare that you would get a specifically Boros-colored card that was along those themes, because they had a certain design that they went with for most Boros cards. It was relegated mostly to combat. But you could have red cards that rummage, and you could have white cards that recurred things. And there's nothing to say you can't just...
stick those together.
Yeah. People do that in other color combinations, and they'll create, new, interesting things, but for some reason...
They just hadn't printed, what was it, the history card that, gets back a bunch of things. What's that card? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, Reconstruct History.
It's a pretty clear example of, that effect, but it wasn't as, clear, I suppose.
I think the main issue is people usually take their cues from their legendary creature, their commanders, when building a deck, and... you can definitely build a totally different theme than what your commander would say. Something like Gisela doesn't really push you in a specific theme. It's just it's a good card.
But it makes sense that you might want to play some sort of reanimation or recursion or things like that in a Boros deck. Later they came out with stuff like Osgir, like you mentioned, stuff like Alabu, stuff like Plarg, which kind of epitomizes that idea. But
yeah, Osgir very clearly tells you, rummage put things in your graveyard and I will reward you.
Yeah.
They didn't really have that before, so I can see how it felt like a mostly combat-focused color combination. That's definitely what the commanders would push you towards, but people turned around a little bit, I think.
Yeah, and I'm personally pretty proud of that video. Maybe it's not as technically sound as maybe some of our newer videos. Not saying that they're amazing or whatever, but it was our first episode, so it's going to have some issues. It doesn't have the lower thirds. Maybe some of the images don't come out the way I want them to in the video, but it's overall I'm happy with it.
And we got a comment from the war leader, PJ himself.
Very, very humbling. No, but. Well, let's move on from that, Eli. Episode 2, Better Than Sol Ring?
Yeah, so before we started recording the podcast, I had this notes document on my phone of just random show ideas for a podcast if I ever started one. And this was one of them because I play a lot of the card Land Tax, and I just got to thinking how many games I play Sol Ring versus another card like Land Tax or Weathered Wayfarer, and how better some of those games felt than the Sol Ring hands.
So this whole topic was about cards, specifically 1-drops that sometimes, can be better than a Soul Ring, or maybe, and to some, we did talk about that, but also cards that are maybe not better than a Soul Ring, but like in that same category of like a really early play that sets you up for the game. And one thing that I really liked about this episode was it gave me a chance to kind of flex some statistical knowledge. So I ran some not very complicated, but reasonably complicated numbers on stuff like opening hands, how many 1-drops you play, like, and how often like you can have one of these Soul Ring-esque cards in your opening hand, as well as the lands to play them. And it was pretty surprising, like, if you do, like, the numbers are in that video, but if you look at it, like, playing something like 6 or 7 really good, like, turn one plays, like, can lead you to have the ability to play one of those, I don't remember the odds, but something like 40 or 60% of the games or something.
Yeah, and obviously the title's a little hyperbolic. It's a little bit clickbaity. There really isn't a better card than Soul Ring, aside from maybe Mana Crypt in Commander. But also, there is a school of thought. I don't necessarily always subscribe to it, but the idea that you play turn 1 Soul Ring, and people just kick the shit out of you.
Yeah.
And I have been in those games, so sometimes that's a thing, but sometimes Soul Ring is just so good. It's a broken Magic
Sometimes
card.
You'd rather have a Serra Ascendant in your hand than a Soul Ring. It happens sometimes. That's the idea.
I'm safer in that game, I feel like.
You get that life lead, you start beating on people. Maybe they kill your Serra Ascendant, but like you're not jumping ahead on mana.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's say we move on. Maybe we're taking a bit too long on these each episode, but whatever. Now we got episode 3, Kaldheim Cards We Dig, and some we don't.
So this was our take on the set review format for an official episode. The idea was not like a full set review, just some very specific and maybe niche cards that we didn't feel like most people would talk about that much, that we thought were cool.
The idea was more like cards that we could see ourselves putting in our decks that weren't super, obviously Commander good cards.
Right, because a problem I have with Commander set reviews is the Command Zone has specifically gotten better at this recently because they realized they were doing so many set reviews, but they've cut down the amount of cards they're talking about because Commander set reviews, I think they have a tendency to look at any card that they think is even fringe playable in the Commander format, and they will discuss it for upwards of 5 minutes.
Well, I've had that problem myself when I'm trying to sort my own cards in my collection, because I'm just can I put this in the bulk box? Well, maybe I'd play this in a Commander deck one day.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, so
but you really don't.
And then I put it in the Commander staples pile when it really shouldn't be.
So to me, it feels like having 5 or so different podcasts where they talk about the same random bulk rare cards that nobody is ever going to actually play. That just felt like a waste of time.
Mm-hmm.
So we tried to pick cards that we actually, like you said, would specifically play in our decks. And the problem was we just had a lot to say about it.
Yeah.
And it still went for 2 hours.
And just to talk for a second as well, one thing I like, Command Zone, it's they're the biggest podcast. And one thing that I like about the Command Zone is when they talk about things that aren't set reviews and deck upgrades, because it feels like over the course of the last 6 months, 60, 70, 80% of their podcast episodes have been, reviewing cards. And I just think that the topics that are more talking about a concept are more entertaining to me.
Yeah, I get actively excited now when I see a Command Zone, and it has an actual topic, and it's not just budget upgrade guide for this random precon that you probably don't care that much about.
Yeah, or
and there's value to that content. That's for somebody. It's not for me, and it's maybe it feels a little greedy, but I want to make content that I would enjoy.
That you would like, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Episode 4, When Politics Go Wrong. What do you have to say about this episode, Eli?
Oh boy, so I think this was around the time or after I had a bit of a falling out with a friend over some Commander, and we wanted to talk about the idea of, Command Zone or game nights. They'll portray a very kind of happy, magical, Christmas landy version of politics where everyone's always having fun with it and getting along, and it's just
it's not always the case, I would say.
You don't see portrayals of people getting upset when they can't come to an agreement in a game, or when things don't work out how they want them to.
Yeah, so this episode was kind of us trying to give that perspective of politics have their place, but also, sometimes they don't work out the way that you want them to, and they just kind of either slow a game down or make players, unhappy, or just kind of make it less fun for certain players as well. So that was kind of the topic of that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that one went pretty well. I was pretty happy with that episode.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're entering the lapel mic arc.
Yeah.
The upstairs.
Yeah, we
saga.
We changed our city location and tried out these lapel mics, which are these little mics that you clip to like your clothes or something.
Yeah, since I started the podcast, it was my birthday, I think, and I had gotten a really nice gift from my brother. It was these lapel mics for recording the podcast, and they are pretty nice, and they will have use for us in the future, I'm sure. But we tried recording a few episodes with them and just found that while not bad, we prefer the audio quality of our Snowball and our other microphone.
Yeah.
So we recorded a few episodes with that, but we stopped after that. But yeah, the Spirit of EDH was just... I wanted to talk about the idea that there is a Spirit of EDH, or like a wrong and a right way to play, and what that even means, because so many people have different ideas about it.
Yeah, people will always go to that's against the Spirit of the EDH. That's the phrase people will use. And, it's not a very concrete thing, much like a spirit, the idea of a spirit in general. Yeah. Not concrete,
It's not real.
Yeah. But yeah, so we pretty much talked about that, and how it means different things to different people. And I think our conclusion was that the Spirit of EDH was self-expression, because that was something that we just determined could...
A common theme across every Commander player.
Yeah. Whether it be expressing yourself in deck building, in gameplay decisions, and, maybe you do politics, maybe, whatever you would choose to do, it's self-expression. Must be... It feels like everybody can kind of identify with.
Yeah, because I feel like even somebody who rarely plays Commander and they borrow somebody's deck or they play a brand new precon, there's still some level of expression in that, whether it's which deck they choose to play or how they choose to play it, like you said, like the gameplay. There's some level of self-expression in there.
Mm-hmm. And we asked for feedback on the microphones, and none of you fuckers said they sounded bad, so screw you guys.
Yeah, we know who our friends are. Or maybe they were just trying to be too nice. We get a lot of nice comments, I gotta say.
Yeah. Well, next episode 6, Blue Needs to Be Stopped. Coming off of our episode 1, talking about the Boros color combination, it only stands to reason that we would have to make an episode shitting on blue. And when I say shitting on blue, I mean more so us talking about all the strengths of blue and all the reasons that blue, is I hesitate to say oppressive, but, kind of approaching that territory.
I'm of the belief, and I'll die on this hill. As if we're talking high power Commander or CDH, blue is just the strongest color in that format of Magic.
And I think one of the reasons why that is, or at least things that would lead you to that conclusion, is that blue seems to have access to like pretty much every concept of like things you can do. Like they can remove things, they can draw things, they can ramp in their own special way. They have interesting ways to do a lot of things. They can board wipe. It seems like there's not much that blue can't do.
Yeah, and this might not seem like a very controversial opinion, but I think what prompted this one was my personal hatred of the color, and also this was around the time when people started to really meme on green and be like, oh my god, this green card, it does way too much, it's too strong, when will the other colors finally catch up, and
yeah,
green OP.
It's like, oh, green gets to do everything. Well, it's like blue's been able to do everything for all the time. And also, blue has, like, almost, like not soul access, but, like pretty close to soul access to a lot of powerful mechanics, like, and I know this isn't, it's not a 100-0 rule, but they're pretty much the color with stuff like extra turns, mass bounce spells, control magic effects. You can find them sparingly in other colors, but that's something that mostly blue has access to. Counter spells.
Yeah, and especially comparing, as far as colors, the amount of free interaction that each color gets.
Mm-hmm.
blue has the most, and its free interaction is usually in the form of counterspells, which are in their own right very powerful.
Yeah, because counterspells aren't just removal spells. They're removal spells, protection spells. They can pretty much serve any purpose, depending on at what point in the game you play them.
Yeah, people like to say each color has different permanent types that they can't interact with, aside from white can deal with everything. Let's say blue can't destroy artifacts, enchantments, or creatures. But really, I look at it this way. Blue can interact with every spell type, because the other colors can't really interact with instants and sorceries.
Yeah, with notable exceptions, but generally, yes.
Yeah, there's some ways, but yeah, blue can. So it not only has a way to really deal with every permanent type, but every spell type
and they
as well.
can even deal with things that usually get around those effects. Like they can stop cycling abilities, like triggered and activated abilities as well. Mm-hmm. So you can't even be like, oh, I'm cycling my spell, so you can't counterspell it. Well, I'll play disallow and counter the ability,
Yeah.
But let's move on from that. The next episode is episode 7, The Amazing Basic Land. And the concept of this episode was we wanted to talk about how we think basic lands are a little bit undervalued. There's a lot of ways that you can play, hate cards to hate on non-basic lands, and basic lands just do a pretty good job in a lot of senses.
Mm-hmm. And this reminds me of I was watching the recent game nights, and early in the game, I think each player was playing a 2-color deck, except for Lady Danger playing mono black. And multiple players open up with very early some form of dual-colored tap land.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a very common thing in Commander. But why not just play basics, right?
I personally, I've got a 2-color Orzhov deck, and it's playing only basic lands. And it's kind of like a joke, not a joke, but it's kind of like a thing, I could put Command Tower in it, it'd be better. I could put shock lands and stuff, but it's kind of like a to make the point of your mana is pretty much just fine with only basics in a 2-color deck.
Yeah,
and you'd be better off playing the enters untapped 2-color lands. That's fine, mm-hmm. But I would not. I think you're much better off playing just basic lands over stuff like Guild Gates.
Yeah, for example, my Tajik deck. It's a 2-color deck. I think I'm playing nearly every Boros dual land that I can, just so I can have red or white on turn 2 if I have a Grand Abolisher or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's a very small advantage that I'm trying to hedge out. But what you're saying about your Liesa deck, it's totally functional.
Yeah, it does its job just fine. Maybe every once in a while you won't have the exact mana you need, but I think it's really overblown how important multicolored lands are in decks that are just 2 colors. Mm-hmm. I think you were talking about that game earlier, Eli, and you said somebody had a Cabal Coffers, right? And they didn't even have they had 2 swamps in play or something.
Oh yeah.
And so it's if you just played more basic lands, maybe you'd be, what I'm saying? But whatever. Also, something we learned from this episode is to vet my info, because I had heard from what I thought was a reputable source that you could get snow. There's some snow basic things with cards like Myriad Landscape.
Yeah.
We were wrong about that. That was my mistake. I heard it from someone made a video about it, and I trusted them. Never do that again. I'm just kidding.
We were set up.
Yeah, people were scheming against us since the beginning.
Yeah, the Magic content creator Cabal, Command Zone, Professor, and all them. They meet on their special island.
What's the medical condition where I think everyone's out to get me? That's paranoid schizophrenic or something like that, or something, whatever. That's me right now. Okay, episode 8. This card is so underplayed. Eli, why don't you talk about what this episode was about? Yeah,
so this was an idea that I wanted to do because there's this phenomena on Magic Twitter and Magic spaces in general where people will, especially for Commander, they always want to prove how clever they are, how unique they are, and like we said, that's the spirit of the format.
Yeah, nothing wrong with kind of flex and be like, oh yeah, I'm cool, I like this.
Yeah, you want to express yourself, you want to play unique cards, you want to have your own personal flair, and people do that a lot. So they'll find a card and say something along the lines of, oh, this card is so underplayed, it's only in this many decks on EDHREC, or I never see people play this card. Mm-hmm. And it'll usually be a card that you look at and you think, well, that's not bad, but I can definitely see why people would prefer to play better cards.
Yeah.
And what really sparked this one was around the time we needed a show topic idea. We were on Magic Twitter and saw our boy Murph.
Josh Murphy, also named Josh.
Yeah, from the Command Zone. He tweeted out about the card Scar Scale Ritual.
Hold on a sec. He tweeted out about it 2 different occasions. 2 different times.
Yeah,
like different days.
He did the double dip.
Yeah.
And the card Scar Scale Ritual is a 1 and a hybrid blue-black for sorcery. It says, as an additional cost to cast it, put a -1/-1 counter on a creature you control, and then draw 2 cards. So it's 2 mana, draw 2, if you have a creature.
And in Dimir colors, right?
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, I would argue we don't need to rehash this, but our main point was that no, Murph, it's not underplayed, it's not that good, and I think our main criticism was mostly how people go about touting their cards, because we can't really criticize someone for like being like, hey, this is a card I play. So I think what I suggested in that episode was I told people that they should approach this by saying like, hey, this is a cool card, try it out if you want, instead of saying it's underplayed.
Yeah, I'd say put forward the information, let people make of it what they will, instead of injecting maybe hyperbolic amounts of positivity into this card and leading people astray maybe, especially if you are, like, Murph isn't like a big person in the scene or anything, but say somebody really big, like Command Zone, they talk about this random new card, like they did episodes like that back in the day, and people might listen to that and try out these cards because these guys said it was really good.
Yeah, do we want to attribute the price of Vedalken Orrery to Josh Liquai, or do you think it's fair to attribute the price increase to him?
I think partially, at least.
At least partially. So
they have a big platform.
Yeah, and I mean, Eli, you and I both are not huge fans of Vedalken Orrery, and we can disagree with that. But it's just an interesting example of. We don't think people should. Let's just move on from that, okay? Thank you. So bullying Murph is cool. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
we like Murph.
That was a fun episode. I like that topic.
Next is when we started. Now, this isn't our podcast episodes, but this is where we started doing our tier list videos that we've done. And if you're waiting for those, we'll have another one coming out pretty soon. I'm sorry. But we did both the Boros tier list and an Orzhov tier list. And, so far, these have been the most viewed videos on our channel, so people definitely like these.
I don't know what it is, but the tier list videos, they fucking pop off. I think it's because people just want to see a tier list and then disagree with it. We get a lot of comments, and I love that. It's really good interaction and engagement for the community.
But it's also really fun because it's interesting because the tier list videos are... I wouldn't say a lot less effort, but they are less effort to put together than our podcast episodes because you don't really need to plan anything. We can just kind of go. Maybe we think about some of the cards a little bit, but we just kind of go in and do it.
It's unscripted, totally. Like, not that this is scripted, but we don't have notes or anything. We just go in and we talk.
And it's very fun because it's I enjoy making those videos, and I'm glad people like them. So thank you if you like those videos.
Yeah, and I'm always surprised to see it's the Orzhov one. That's the most viewed video on our channel, like by a pretty significant margin.
It's at like 4,500 or something like that.
It's over 5,000 right now. It's crazy.
But yeah, I don't know. And then after that, we did a live deck building video, which we did Liesa, Duskcrowd or whatever her name is.
From Commander Legends.
Yeah, and that has some views and stuff, but I'm not super happy with that video. There's some small technical issues with it, like the aspect ratio is a bit messed up. I think the format was just screen recording us making a deck on Architect, I think. Mm-hmm. And we forgot a lot of things. It was just kind of an impromptu thing. If you like it, you like it. Fair enough.
Yeah, it was pretty low effort. It was just for fun. And what I wanted to ask you, looking at this, I don't remember too much of that video, but not much of that made it into your actual Liesa deck that you made a couple months later.
No, it was kind of just like to think of a theme or whatever and like build it like in a certain way, and it wasn't actually how I actually made the deck. So it's a bit interesting how that works out sometimes, right?
Yeah, however, the sub-theme we put in there with the Alliance of Arms, that made it into my EDHREC Silverquill deck.
Yeah, the idea is like Alliance of Arms and like Massacre Worm kind of things.
Yeah, and it's really cool and it's fun, because a lot of those cards are just good on themselves, and then you have Alliance of Arms, which isn't that bad.
Yeah, it's not that bad.
Well, you play it with EDHRECs or something, and you get a bunch of 1/1s, and then you make yours into 2/2s, so at least like you block everybody.
And then you play a Massacre Worm and kill everyone. Very cool.
But usually they just trade them into each other before the turn before you can do that, in my experience.
And that kind of works with your commander a little bit, because, EDHREC makes 2/1s for people, and you can do that. Okay, after that we have episode 9, Building for the Meta. Eli, why don't you talk about what this episode is about?
Yeah, so this one, we wanted to talk about how, I think you and I, we have several different play groups we play with, but we don't really put cards in our decks just to own a specific kind of deck, or specific people, really. Like,
we don't play Choke or something to destroy all the forests or islands or whatever that card does, I don't remember.
Yeah, and that can be fun, but I will play some hate cards in my decks, but usually just hate cards that I find affect the majority of players. You might think Rest in Peace is a pretty specific card that really only hoses graveyard decks, but really almost every commander deck has some form of recursion in it.
Yeah.
Or death triggers.
Something that a Rest in Peace will stop. Stuff like Skull Clamp, stuff like you said, green decks play stuff like Eternal Witness. Blue decks will play Archaeomancer, stuff like that.
Yeah, I doubt you play Rest in Peace in a game and it's completely a dead card.
Yeah, Dye's triggers I think are pretty ubiquitous.
Yeah.
Additionally, we talked about a bunch of cards that we thought were so not to use the word underrated because we just shit on people for saying underrated, but we talked about cards that we thought kind of fit that idea of never kind of being dead in a game for most games.
Yeah, just catch-alls, your bread and butter cards that you always need to have, your effects that will always do you well.
I think, what was it? Was it Containment Priest that was the spark for the idea, or was it something else?
Oh yeah, I think it was a section on the EDHREC cast where they were talking about silver bullet cards, and they mentioned the card Containment Priest as a silver bullet card against, say, specifically Reanimator strategies.
Or a Blink deck or something.
And we started talking about it and thinking, well, actually, Containment Priest is a pretty good card against a lot of decks. Because, like you said, Blink strategies are a thing.
Yeah.
And people are oftentimes trying to recur their creatures, blink their creatures.
Other similar things, So instead of Containment Priest being a silver bullet against certain decks, we kind of characterize it as a silver bullet against, quote-unquote, the meta. So it was more impactful than maybe other people would think.
Yeah, so we broke down several sections of things that most commander decks do, which would be, say, drawing cards, ramping lands, playing board wipes.
Playing creatures. I think we had a section about how commander decks be playing creatures sometimes, right, guys? You have at least one, most of the time.
We do a little creaturing.
We do little creatures. But yeah, that's about what we have for that episode, I think. Our next episode, go ahead.
We have Rule 0, the Nothing Rule. This was a spicy topic.
And this took a lot of planning for, I believe. We had to do a lot of research from stuff like the Rules Committee. We listened to some podcasts and stuff that members of the Rules Committee had been on.
Yeah, straight from the mouth of Sheldon.
Yeah. So we talked about Rule 0 and a lot of things surrounding that, and how we pretty much ended up feeling that Rule 0 was very confusing, and we didn't quite understand it, or at least it wasn't fair for anyone to understand it, exactly.
Right, like the title suggests, I feel like Rule 0 could just as well not exist, and the format would be fine.
It would be the same. I don't think there would be much of a difference.
Yeah, and like you said, Rule 0, if you really do understand it, it does take a little bit of nuance and some extra understanding.
It took, we did, not to, big ourselves up here, but, we did a pretty decent amount of research to figure out what exactly Rule 0 means, And our conclusion from that was that it means like 3 different things at different times from different people. So there's not like a very good... I know at one point in the episode we asked, hey guys, if you have any suggestions for like a concise way to explain New Rule Zero, comment it there. I think we got a couple good comments for that. Mm-hmm. People, giving us some pretty good suggestions. But I think if that's even the case, it kind of exemplifies why it's so confusing.
Yeah. So that was a good one. I liked that episode.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, we had our Azorius tier list. Next video in the tier list section. I think you and I don't play very much Azorius, so it was kind of interesting to go through those commanders.
Yeah, my only real experience with Azorius is playing an Esper deck, which originally I was planning on having it be Azorius, and then I decided, no, this would be cooler if it had black too.
Exactly. So yeah, let's just move on from that. Episode 11 has EDH Ruined Magic. And I think, if I recall correctly, this episode is more about like how Wizards are doing things like designing cards for Commander specifically, and they're taking slots from standard sets, and like they make a lot of like Commander decks and stuff like that.
Yeah, around this time and to this day, there's a lot of talk of product fatigue in Magic, and especially around Commander. We just had last year, right? Was the year of Commander.
The year of Commander. And it feels like this year is also the year of Commander. Right?
Every year is the year of Commander.
I mean, kind of, honestly. But yeah, so this kind of episode was mostly about kind of evaluating. I think one of the things we talked about in this episode was like, it's confusing because I think I'm trying to remember exactly what I said. I said something along the lines of Magic players have a hard time even knowing what it is they want. So let's say that like that Wizard starts like making like really crazy like made for Commander cards, right? Like let's say they start making like commanders that are like really like off the wall, and like you can have 150 cards in your Commander deck or something and stuff like that, right? Stuff that I think most players probably would be against, right? The idea of, because like, oh, that's crazy, that's way too format warping. But the thing is, I think like I could definitely envision mechanics that I think I wouldn't like, and then they make them, and then I see how they end up making them, and I'm like, oh, actually, this is really cool. I like this. I think this I was thinking about stuff like Companion for this, because Companion was such a big change for commanders and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's so much Magic product and different ideas they have that I think about, and I think if somebody had told me this was going to be a thing, I would say I hate that.
And then it came out, and you were like...
it happens, and
you're like, oh.
At worst, I would say I don't care.
And at best, it's like, this is actually really cool.
Yeah, you gotta try.
It's very easy to just dismiss something you hear about without trying it. And I think, similar to, if you're a kid and you're trying new food, you never know if you're going to like it or not. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to look at that from a top-down view and get it exactly right.
Yeah.
All right, our next episode 12, How Does the Ban List Work?
This was a fun episode. This was another one that took some research into kind of the Rule Zero philosophy and how the Commander Rules Committee assesses the ban list and how they go about banning cards.
And it was very interesting because we did this ban list episode and we did a lot of research and looking at all the stuff, and it feels like when the Rules Committee did their new ban restricted update for Golos and Worldfire...
I felt like I was ready. I felt like I would see the next one coming, and then that happened, and it's just, well fuck, back to the drawing board.
Because it felt like they didn't follow their previous reasons for banning cards. It felt like it wasn't consistent with what we had looked into on this episode. It was strange.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't remember which episode it was. It was either this or before this. I remember I had at one point... put a little funny meme in one of the videos as like unban Worldfire. So I predicted it, guys, before it happened. So give me credit for that.
Spencer Cook, the clairvoyant.
The prophet, yeah. The prophet of Krufix. Unban that too, by the way. I love that card.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. Based. Eli, did you play a decent bit of Commander when that was around? Did you ever play a Simic deck?
That was when I started playing Commander, but I didn't play that often. That was not my main format at the time. So,
and I bet you didn't play Simic.
Definitely not. I had one Commander deck, maybe two.
So you played against the Prophet of Krufix, whereas I had a Krufix deck that it was Krufix, then 1 point later it was Zagana. And I loved playing Prophet of Krufix. That was a fun-ass card. I think I probably wouldn't like it as in franchise as I am now, because I was a new player, but I loved it. That's a tangent that we didn't need to go on, though.
But yeah, how does the ban list work? So that was a good topic to... You see a lot of people online, especially on, say, Reddit,
My favorite website, yeah.
And anytime a banning happens, or anytime Sheldon says anything, you get a bunch of people saying stuff like, "Oh, the rules committee, they're so fucking dumb. I could do it better."
Oh yeah, this was an episode where we really kind of put our necks on the line. Is that a phrase you can even say? We put our backs out and we were like, Sheldon is actually kind of based, and also all the rules committee members, they're actually kind of based. Stop hating on Shivam. He's doing a good job. Stop hating on Sheldon. He's doing a good job. I think that's kind of what we took away from that.
Yeah,
or they at least they care and they're trying.
They do care a lot. They mean very well, and they have taken steps to do things to appease people. One of the main complaints about the rules committee back in the day was that they were just an insular little group and they didn't listen to much outside feedback, and people still feel that way, but they literally made a whole separate organization, the Commander Advisory Group, of a bunch of diverse people from different areas and not just in the same circle, specifically to tell them from many different perspectives when they're doing wrong.
Yeah, and additionally, you'll find just the advisory group, but like members of the rules committee going and interacting with people, talking to people. They write articles and stuff. They read the comments of those. They read Reddit. They read Twitter. So I don't know. They are going out of their way to at least listen.
Yeah.
All right. Our next episode was The Strengths of Weakness, featuring our good friend Bradley Muckey. Okay,
so this episode, I've got to admit, it was our first guest we had on.
I think our only guest episode.
Only guest so far. The original idea for the show was to have many guests on. Like, it would be a pretty regular thing. We'd establish ourselves and then maybe have a bi-monthly guest.
Sure.
To get more takes, because that's the idea of the show, is many different perspectives, like the CAG.
Exactly.
And so we invited our friend Bradley, who has been a longtime friend of mine since high school. We kind of didn't know each other so well for a few years, but we got back in touch through Magic, through going to our local game store, Paradox Comics and Cards. And so we invited him on to talk about the idea of playing suboptimal cards.
And the value of that, because, people will not assess you as a threat, or people will... they'll see your suboptimal cards and they'll maybe cut you a break sometimes.
As PJ will say, you eat a lot of removal sometimes.
And if you play cards that don't necessitate that, you won't eat as much removal, as he'll say.
Right. And having your bad card is worth more than having your good card, which gets removed, right?
True. I'd say so.
So this episode, we got into it, and I felt ill-prepared, and I was up in my head about it, and we started the episode, and we had loose show notes, but nothing real. I think we had our least amount of notes for this one, because we went into it.
We want to let Bradley talk, and carry it.
I'm of the opinion that if you're going to have somebody on your show, you give them more time to speak than the main host, because otherwise, why are you even... I've listened to some podcasts, like Magic podcasts specifically. They'll invite a guest on and just carry on sort of business as usual and just have their guest sit in the corner. I don't like that. Not a fan of that. So I feel like I threw it over to Bradley a little too quickly. I kind of like haphazardly tossed the ball, but he fucking caught it, man.
Yeah, Bradley's he's a guy who can definitely hold a conversation well. So very, very good. I think I learned from this episode a lot about having guests, so I think if we had another guest, we would probably do better ourselves.
Yeah, after we recorded, I felt like I did very poorly at it, and after we started, even within the podcast, I was freaking out. I thought this has gone off the rails because we didn't have much of a script to it, but you and Bradley just kind of had a normal-ass conversation, and I listened to the episode after you edited it, and I thought, this is going to be terrible. I did such a bad job. And I listened to it and listened to you and Bradley speaking. And I was like, wow, this is such a relaxed, normal vibe. I'm such a neurotic piece of shit. And I thought it actually went really well. So big props to Bradley. He's a very charismatic person, and he's just a lot of fun to listen to.
Yeah. So thank you for that, Bradley.
Yeah, thank you, Bradley. Shout out to Bradley.
Yep, and we're gonna have Bradley on our next tier list video.
Yeah, an upcoming one at least.
And
maybe it might be the next one.
And that's the reason that the tier list video hasn't been coming out lately, and it's not Bradley's fault, it's our fault.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
Yep. What next? What do you got, Eli?
We got Selesnya tier list. So this was a hard one to do because Selesnya to me is that's like the saltine crackers of guilds. I don't feel anything about it. It's okay.
Yeah. But one thing that I want to talk about this episode was I think this was the first tier list where I started adding the card images to the videos, and I think that has improved them quite a bit because I know a lot of people were saying in the comments like, hey man, I really, it'd be nice if I could read what the card does instead of just having you guys read it. I mean, you guys reading it's fine, but reading on the screen's nice. So that's third here, just some lore.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you know, you can't trust what we say.
Yeah.
So.
Oh wait, was Tobias Andrion Selesnya?
He's Azorius.
Damn it.
Yeah, we should have mentioned that, the Tobias Andrion test, recurring bit.
Well, Selesnya had a lot of Legends commanders that suck ass, so...
Yeah.
But look pretty. Like, there's this cool, I think this is cool, like, redhead girl with, like, roses and stuff. She's cool.
Jasmine Boreal.
How do you know that? Okay. And this happens a lot, guys. I'm like, oh yeah, there's this one random freaking white card, or I, like, look on Gatherer, and I see, like, this card, and I'm like... Hey Eli, do you know what this card does? And he knows exactly what it does. And I'm like, how do you know that?
I'm the savant.
Yeah. What is in Rain Man where he toothpicks on the ground?
Yeah, that's me with all the white cards.
Yeah. So what was after that? We did. Oh, this is episode 14, EDHREC. Oh, but this was a very passionate episode for me. I know Eli, you've had a bunch of passionate episodes. This was me because I was really upset about some of the ways that people would represent, not necessarily EDHREC itself, but people would represent the data of EDHREC. They would ascribe to it too much value, and without going into that super far, I would just recommend you listen to the episode if you're curious. It's just, it was a passion episode for me.
Yeah, one thing they'll say if you listen to the EDHREC cast is that part of the premise of their show, I think it's in their sort of intro statement.
Oh, yeah.
They're explaining the data from...
We're just giving it a little more context.
Yeah, there's a lot of data on EDHREC. We're just going to give it a little bit more context. And at the same time, though, they propagate a lot of the misinformation.
Yeah. When you say things like, this is... Like I get it. They're getting more context. But when you use... the percentage of decks that something is in as the sole argument for something, I get it. It can be part of an argument, but it seems like they say
this card is so underplayed.
This card is so underplayed. 15% of decks QED. That's it. Like therefore it should be played more or something. It's like that's not. Sometimes they don't do it all the time, but that was a very frustrating thing for me to see.
Well, that's their whole challenge the stats segment.
Yeah.
In a nutshell.
Yeah. Well, next after that, we've got episode 15, Miscellaneous Takes. I think this might have been our most controversial episode, Eli.
Because we got one negative comment.
And if you're there, hey, brother, I love you. But
thank you for commenting, legit.
Yeah,
any interaction is good interaction.
We don't get enough negative comments because I feel...
That's true, actually.
It makes me anxious because when everyone's agreeing with me, it makes me feel complacent. If someone has something to disagree with, it makes me feel more like okay, this is normal. I can correct myself and improve.
I am... we are thankful for the following we've garnered and everything, but there are some episodes, like we've mentioned, I feel like are kind of bad. So if they are bad, you can say that.
Yeah.
It's just a statement of fact.
No.
Facts don't care about our feelings.
But I care about my feelings.
Nice comments are cool too, though, so
yeah.
Keep those up.
But the Miscellaneous Takes episode, we just kind of, we had 8 or 10, kind of random opinions that we had. I think maybe one of the most disagreeable ones was from me, where I said stuff like, Scry sucks ass, and other things like, I think we talked about how, cards like Vampiric Tutor are maybe a little bit not as good as they're obviously good, but you know what I mean? Demonic Tutor, cards that put the card in your hand are better than generally cards that put them on top of your deck.
Little overhyped.
Maybe a little bit, but...
I think there's just a tendency to see cards that are played in a CEDH deck list and say to yourself, well, this card is played in a powerful deck, ergo, this is a powerful card. Mm-hmm. Not always the case.
But...
competitive Winota decks play fucking Ornithopter sometimes.
Doesn't mean Ornithopter is like a staple Commander S plus card. That being said, feel free to disagree. No worries. Our next episode was the Gruul tier list. This is our most recent tier list, isn't it? Man, it's been a while.
We did the Izzet one.
Oh, true. Forgot about that with SoullessMidwest. So yeah, Gruul tier list is cool. Gruul's a cool color combination. I was surprised by the Gruul tier list because it felt like Gruul didn't have too many like super top like S tier cards, like as good as some of the S tiers and other commanders. But Gruul did have a lot of just like pretty good cards, so I like Gruul. Gruul's cool.
Yeah, and I like Gruul. It's probably my second or third favorite guild
after Boros and maybe something else.
Yeah, which is surprising because I really don't like green.
But
Gruul's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Gruul is cool. And we also addressed the legend, recurring legend of Chumbo.
Yeah, if you don't know about Chumbo by now, get with the lore.
Good friend of mine.
Yeah. You know what they say, Eli? Not Gruul, then die.
Exactly.
To quote a very classic...
Chumbo was the first person to say that.
True.
He invented that.
Yeah. Was that Graham that said that? Alex?
Well, yeah, they quoted that from a Magic card.
That's on a Magic card?
The Magic card quoted Chumbo.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, moving on from that, we've got the Izzet tier list featuring SoullessMidwest.
Yeah, that was a really fun episode. It was nice to have our friend Quinn, SoullessMidwest, there so that I didn't have to talk as much.
Yeah. Oh, also, I lied earlier. The Gruul tier list is when I started putting up the card images, not the Selesnya one.
Oh, yeah.
My mistake. So. But yeah, SoullessMidwest, a good friend of mine, and yours, Eli Quinn. He's like a streamer.
I guess technically that would kind of count as our second guest. Like, it wasn't a podcast, but it was still nice to have somebody else on there.
Check him out. He's a really cool guy. He plays shooter games and stuff like that on Twitch. Really awesome.
Very kind, genuine person. So if you engage with his content, he'll absolutely, he'll talk to you back. He'll get in the chat maybe if he's paying attention.
He's paying attention.
He's a little in the zone sometimes, but he's a very well-meaning and very kind guy. Very good friend of ours.
Sometimes you gotta be an FPS gamer and just kind of zone in.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to get his attention, you can leave a threat in his chat or something.
Yeah, be like,
no, don't do that. Okay.
But this was a fun episode. Izzet's got a lot of interesting and cool commanders, a lot of powerful ones.
Yeah, mainly why we needed Quinn on there was because I could not care less about Izzet. I care about it less than Selesnya, I think.
Yeah, and Quinn's an avid. He played several Izzet decks in the past, so it's really cool. Mm-hmm. Moving on from there, episode 16, the Tribal Trap. This was another one of the me episodes because I freaking... It's kind of funny. My first deck that I built from scratch in Commander... Technically, my first deck was an Oloro Ageless Ascetic deck, but that was pre-con that I maybe upgraded a little bit. After that, my first deck that I built was a Maronar Rat Tribal deck. So it's kind of funny for that to be my first deck, and then for me to later on say, I hate Tribal. So take from that what you will, but I may hate Tribal, but I do love small Tribal packages in decks, and I think that was the idea for this podcast, was that sometimes playing a lot of the bad Tribal cards is a trap, and maybe just stick with the good ones and you'll have a better deck.
Yeah, it's a little bit all in, is what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
We have this kind of, maybe it's fun, policey, curmudgeonly attitude of just play good cards.
You'll have
your definition of good cards might differ, but just play good cards.
Yeah, I think most Commander players can agree with that. Play good cards.
Yeah, you'll have a better time.
Yeah. But moving on from that, Eli, next episode, what we got?
I wanted to mention, too, the Tribal Trap, I believe, is our currently highest viewed video
podcast
on the YouTube
video?
channel.
That's awesome.
So that's interesting, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, the next one, we did We're getting to the modern age. Like, this is getting pretty close, I feel like.
Yeah, you don't like the Age of Empires when you like level up, when you like tier up or whatever. We're at the modern era now.
Yeah, we've accessed gunpowder.
Yeah, we've gone past the Castle Age. We've gotten musketmen. You better watch out.
Yeah, we did Deconstructing Salt. So this sort of tied back a little bit to some previous topics, such as
the politics episode.
Go Wrong, Spirit of EDH. And we wanted to talk about certain things, reasons people might get salty, and ways that people might express salt.
Ways you can circumvent it, things like that. And, this was just it's hard to boil this down to one or two sentences. So if you're really interested, maybe go back and listen to it. But I think it was a very introspective episode.
Yeah, it kind of turned into a discussion on mental health and magic, and I'd like to have topics like that sometimes, addressing more real world things.
Yeah, I think we've done that a couple times since then as well, like in our new episode, which I don't want to jump ahead to, but like I feel like mental health and stuff like that kind of does come up in our podcast at least once or twice.
Yeah, because I think it's just so you know, if you're a Magic player or playing with Magic players, you do have mental health issues. Your brain is wrong.
If you're a Magic player,
yeah. I mean that's joking.
It's a joke.
We respect mental health here.
Very, very serious topic.
Yeah, very serious, but yeah, mostly just because Magic is the worst.
Yeah, but I love it. I can't get away. Do you want to move on to the next podcast episode?
Yeah, we did The Hunt, which was we reapproached the Cards We Dig sort of deal, but we really tempered it back this time. It's keeping it to one card per color.
So we each had 5 cards to talk about, I believe. Oh no, 6, because we did a multicolored card too.
Yeah, and we discussed also the idea, we thought it would be good to have a tie-in to that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. So we could do like a 50-50 in an episode, and we'll probably do that in the future.
I like that idea of, if we're going to do a set review kind of thing, tying it in as a 50-50 to some other bigger topic.
Yeah, and so we talked about different strategies or types of cards that really like put our hackles on edge and make us feel a little more aggressive in the game, or even more defensive, and just things that we are almost sort of afraid of, and we feel like we need to assess more heavily.
Things you need to hunt down to stop them before they go off the rails, maybe that's the thing to say.
Right.
Something that was interesting that I just want to bring up, and if I can, I'll try to say this in less than 3 minutes, because I'm one to ramble, and I'm doing it now. But interestingly enough, in that episode, we talked about Saltai, as being like a color combination that often is like known for its like value engines and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But funnily enough, we talked about Saltai as being a huntable color, Simic, mono blue, and mono black. So everything in the Saltai pair except for Dimir, which somehow just is able to not be a problem at all.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Like I feel like I see a Dimir deck,
and I'm not like it's not like it's a bad deck or anything, but it doesn't put me on edge. It doesn't make me think, oh, okay, they're gonna. Whereas like mono blue, mono black, you have access to the really good mono stuff, like in like stuff like High Tide, stuff like Cabal Coffers, and then Selesnya, of course, right?
Yeah,
or not Selesnya, sorry,
Simic.
Simic.
It's mostly the commanders, because if I see a Dimir deck, I'm usually thinking it's some gimmicky shit. It's like Rogue Tribal, it's a mill deck.
Yeah, what's like the best Dimir commander, like Araumi or something? I don't know.
Yeah, when really like the top end Dimir commander is probably some combo deck or some like really aggressive reanimator deck.
Or like the Scarab God? I don't know, like what.
Yeah, that's
like,
pretty good, but
like what's like it's not like it's doing anything super oppressive.
Yeah.
Okay, well, moving on from that, we've got the Power Level Paradox, episode 19. Which is our
episode.
I think this is a big one that we did. Like, this one took a while.
Yeah. This one, I think, was around 2 hours long.
Yeah, it was us talking about the whole big power level discussion. This one was very fun because I think we got to engage with a lot of other podcasts and other media. So we got to look at, like, a bunch of other podcasts like MTG Goldfish, EDHREC and stuff like that, and look at how they approach the power level discussion and maybe give our own takes about that.
Yeah, we took a bunch of different takes and then we gave our own.
Yeah, and that's kind of the idea of the podcast, I suppose, a little bit.
Yeah, and I And I like that. That was really a perfect example of what we're kind of trying to do.
What we're about, yeah.
And I like that one too because sometimes we'll have topics and they're inspired by something a different creator has said or just a general idea in the community, but it's kind of... It feels like a little bit of a straw man sometimes for us to do that.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, we took quotes and clips, and I tried really hard to interpret what people said charitably and accurately, and not be so like, oh, there's command zone, they're dumb.
There's a term called steel manning, which is the idea that if you steel man someone's position, you try to build up their position to be as strong as it possibly can be, so you can argue against the best version of their argument.
I like that.
Yeah, so I feel like that's kind of what we did, as well as, like you said, Eli, taking specific clips and quotes. Like we weren't just like arguing against nobody. So that was very nice because. People had some pretty dumb opinions, so we didn't have to invent their opinions for them. They could be dumb on their own. I'm just kidding. But after that, we got episode 20, getting very close to current year.
Yeah, the Halloween special. And it was really spooky because it was my fucking nightmare. Because I was so wrong several times, and I feel really bad about it.
Me too. This was reading the card does not explain the card. It was a topic about how confusing Magic rules are and stuff like that, going against that age-old adage that the professor maybe created or something.
However, we did get a very nice and very helpful comment from one of our first and favorite listeners reassuring us that this actually, we next leveled it because us getting all these rules wrong just reinforces the point.
Exactly.
So thank you for saying that.
Yes. One thing that I learned from this episode was there were a couple mistakes in the episode. There were more in the pre-edited version. I usually don't edit out things we say, but I double-checked a couple things that we said using the judge chat feature, the IRC chat, and found that they were just wrong. So I took a couple things out. So that was something that I learned. Judge chat is based.
Yeah, I would like to address the main thing that I said that was wrong about effects that gain control of a permanent you don't own, and then you leave the game. Like, say you Gilded Drake somebody's creature, and then you leave the game. I thought that card was exiled because how it works is if that permanent was never under that player's control, like say you reanimated it somehow.
Yeah, or you cast it from the top of their deck or something.
Yeah, then the card is exiled when you leave. But if that permanent was if it switched control at some point, if it was under that player's control, and then you leave the game, it will go back to them.
Yep.
So that's where the confusion was, because I looked up some ruling and I must have gotten my wires crossed years and years ago, and so I just always thought that's how it worked.
And also, I think later on, I started talking about how poly artifacts are... I started talking about poly artifacts like they were continuous artifacts, and I just got those mixed up as well, so that's unfortunate.
Yeah, it's bound to happen, though, sometimes. We'll get a word wrong, or people misspeak. So, we apologize.
But moving on from that, because we gotta get this moving. What you got?
The Mitch bit.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty good.
Was that in this episode?
That was reading the cards because he was complaining about...
Oh, yeah, the white... was
nitpicking rules lawyers.
Yeah.
Reconnaissance.
Maybe I'll upload that as a clip on the channel. I don't know. What do you guys feel about taking some bits that we do sometimes and uploading them as clips? Or for example, if we have we did that Murph rant a long time ago. Do you think that would be good to just be a standalone video as well?
A good short from that one would be the part where we go to talk about triggered abilities, and I say, if there's one thing in Magic I know, it's triggered abilities. And then immediately my mind just goes completely blank.
And you're triggered abilities that say...
Like an act of God, I was struck down in my hubris.
Yeah.
And forgot it for a split second, and it's a really funny moment.
Yeah, but if you're curious, I always timestamp all the videos, so if you want to see the Mitch meme that we do in that episode, go back there, and there should be Mitch supercut or something in the timestamps, and it's pretty much just a little goof. Little, like a classic H3 meme, from back from 2013 or something.
Little gaff.
Little gaff, yeah. All right. But okay, moving on from that, we got our last present day. As of recorded this 2 days ago, 3 days ago,
2 days ago.
Wow, and it's already out. Impressive.
Good job, Spencer.
This was episode 21. Temper your expectations, and I'm gonna think for a second. 'Cause do I remember anything about this episode? Nope. What you got, Eli?
Oh, nothing to say.
So if you're curious about that, go and watch it.
Yeah. Okay. So, in summary, that is all of our content up to present day.
Yep.
I am incredibly grateful for the following that we managed to garner. I remember the first several months of our channel, we were just like inching up, like really struggling to even get to 40, 50 subs.
Yeah.
And I think it was after we started doing the tier lists, and those started getting into like the thousands of views.
That was really cool.
Once a video gets that much traction and that much, like the amount of comments and the views, YouTube might start to recommend it to other people. Mm-hmm. And we're at the point now where I feel like we gain at least one subscriber a day.
And it feels good.
And it's very humbling to see all the comments and the likes and just people watching. I'm really happy that people are enjoying the comment. And I'm happy if people aren't enjoying it either, but continue to listen.
Yeah,
Hey, a hate listen is still a listen.
Well, honestly, that might even mean more. If someone doesn't like the content or disagrees but listens, that means that they either one, just think it's funny to make fun of us, which we're guilty of doing that sometimes, or two, they at least respect it enough to consider the things, even if they disagree.
I think you and I were talking about what truly makes a bad movie at one point, and to me, the worst movie is just the movie that makes you feel nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas if you at least dislike something, you feel enough about it to feel bad.
And I think that's at least more entertaining, more enjoyable than yeah.
That's at least something.
All right, well, why don't we move on from that, Eli, and just do a final thing for this episode really quickly. Give our thanks for the year, because it is Thanksgiving, of course.
Yeah. Cards and sets that we are thankful for from 2021. Because I think there shouldn't be another set this year, right?
I don't think so.
Not gonna pop one into December, surprise.
Yeah, they're not gonna. December 25th. Here you go. Here's Kamigawa early.
What do Magic players say every preview season? Oh, we just had a new set 1 week ago.
It kind of is like that, though. Honestly,
sometimes it kind of is.
It feels like when a set comes out, I still haven't gotten the cards in the new set. And the spoilers for the next one just come out. Even if it's a leak or something, right?
Yeah,
they start real soon.
Yeah, perpetual preview season. That is kind of a thing, but I think the last couple months and going into next year, there's
pretty good.
Spacing out a little bit.
I like that.
They just fill the gaps with secret layer drops now.
That's fine. I won't. Yeah, I can just ignore those.
You just glue up the cracks with useless shit.
Yeah, poggers. Trying not to say poggers challenge literally impossible. Okay, Eli, so what are you thankful for? What sets of 2021?
I am thankful for Kaldheim. There were some really cool cards in there. I wanted to specifically shout out. We're a big fan of MDFCs.
Oh, I love them.
And they went away from... we still had the flip land, the dual color lands, not necessarily land spell.
Yeah, the
MDFC.
What are they?
The pathways.
Pathways, yeah, those are awesome.
But we got the Blessed stat line.
Yes.
Halvar, God of Battle.
4 mana, 4/4.
That card is so good in your Aurelia deck. It's not even like a dedicated equipment deck. It's just he's a 4 mana 4/4. You put Lightning Greaves on him. He's got double strike.
Yeah, I played a game I'm pretty sure I on curve swung at someone for 8. Or no, I turn 4 or turn 5 Aurelia'd someone for 12. That was it.
Oh my god.
On a turn.
He's so pretty good. Cool. I do have an equipment deck with Halvar in it right now, and I think I've only ever gotten to cast him once.
Yeah.
And that's why I want to play that deck, because it's such a cool card, and I even have the special showcase version in foil, and it looks so good. Yeah, the showcases from Kaldheim, very cool.
So yeah, those gods that are the two-faced, two-sided cards with equipment are all epic, except for one who I hate. You know the one.
Yeah, and conversely, Toralf, God of Fury, very powerful card.
Yeah.
If you see that as a commander...
Be worried.
Yeah, because that plus Blasphemous Act. So I also put that in my my Boros equipment deck with Arden and Rogue Rack, just because it's a 2-mana equipment, so it fits into the curve of that
theme,
deck.
yeah.
And
Sometimes,
if I have to play Toralf, it's just, and I have my Blasphemous Act,
win the
backdoor
game.
win condition.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Awesome card. Also, Kaldheim was very cool in theming. I think the Viking kind of Norse mythology theme was very cool. A lot of, some of the snow cards. Oh, we got blessed be her name, Redane, god of the worthy.
Redane is amazing.
I love her.
I can't believe I forgot to put that on the dock. But yeah, Redane, thank you for mentioning that. Always good.
Yeah.
And Foretell, very good mechanic.
Yeah, I mean, even the... Oh, man, I've got like a deck that has like 5 or 6 Foretell cards, like, and not even playing... Well, it does play some of the bad ones, but, I like the mechanic. It's cool. Except for every time I seem to play Foretell cards, you play a goddamn Dranath Magistrate, and then I can't cast them.
Well, people like to complain about wheels in Commander. Just ship them into Foretell.
That is actually kind of a thing.
You can later.
Foretell 3 cards, then wheel, and you got 10 cards in your hand.
Exactly. It's really cool. I love that being able to spend your mana on 2.
Yeah,
it's so good.
The only thing that is kind of tricky about Foretell is it seems like every time I Foretell a card on turn 2 in my white-black deck, all my opponents are like, he's got a board wipe, it's a board wipe.
It's always Doomscar.
Yeah, but I've got 6 of them.
It's like the Morph card, it's always Willbender, it's always Doomscar.
Yeah, or it's always Willbender, or it's the Nantuko Vigilante or whatever that like kills a artifact or enchantment or whatever. Is that it? Oh, if I got that name right, give this video a like.
It's for sure Nantuko. So
yeah, I'm just
kidding.
kidding.
You got it.
Nice. Okay, well, the Strixhaven commander decks, those are really good. We got all the Lorehold stuff, Osgir, stuff like that. I know you really love Cursed Mirror.
Yeah, so this might be a hot take. I've been consuming the pre-con product for several years now, dating back to, I think, 2013 Monocolored Commanders was the first year I bought a Commander pre-con.
2014 Monocolored Commanders.
2014.
Yeah.
Since then, I've been buying at least one pre-con per set, usually.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is the best year of Commander since then. I know 4-color Commanders were very good, but you always run into this issue of there being one very powerful card in one of the decks.
Oh, like when they put like Dockside Extortionist in a deck, or when they put like True Name Nemesis back in the good old days.
Yeah, or Teferi's Protection, or I think at the time Deep Glow Skate.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
That used to be really expensive. Or even the Face Commanders, I think Atraxa got to be pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And that deck, you couldn't find it anywhere. I remember buying out the last one at my local game store for a marked up price because it was on some kind of sale or something.
It was the same thing with the 2013, what's her name, Jaleva? The Grixis commander deck.
Yep.
It had True Nemesis, which was a legacy staple, so that deck was like not cheap.
And I know that the
wait, one thing. They reprint. They at some point they reprinted those 2013 commander decks to stores, and they sent them to stores, and they sent them with 2 Jaleva decks for every one of the other ones.
Oh yeah, I think
that was funny. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, aside from the Osgir deck, I know might go for slightly more than the other decks because it does have the most value.
Archaeomancer's map and
it had the Hellkite Tyrant that used to be like a $20 card. They reprinted in there. Good reprints. There really wasn't a bonkers, absurd, expensive staple card.
Yeah, like we were saying in the last episode, the most expensive card in there in that whole set is about $11, an Archaeomancer's map. Yeah,
and that's even a card, I know some people disagree with me on this, but it's a good card. It's not like a staple card. It's not a card, say, your deck is suboptimal if you're not playing this.
Well, the thing that it's a great card. The thing that I have against it a little bit, or like not it in particular, but I've noticed I've been playing a lot of white decks with like the catch-up mechanics, right? Like what's the 4-mana 3/4? I can never remember this card's name every single time.
Dwarven Farmer guy?
No. The one that gives you 1/1s and lands if you have less than your opponent.
Oh, Keeper of the Accord.
The good one, yeah. Keeper of the Accord is a great, amazing card, but when you have like 4 or 5 effects of these, they get a little bit worse. So Keeper of the Accord and Archaeomancer's Map in conjunction are less powerful than, they're less powerful than the sum of its parts, as opposed to being more powerful than the sum of its parts.
And I think that's what makes Archaeomancer's Map at least kind of good, is baseline it always gets you 2 planes in your hand.
It's a divination.
So it's a divination.
Yeah, which is always obviously good.
Which is also an artifact, so it's recurable and you can do cool stuff
Osgir and stuff like that, yeah. So, but Eli, I think I haven't personally played the card yet because I haven't gotten a copy, but I know you're a big Cursed Mirror fan.
Yeah, Cursed Mirror. So there's been this push from the community to ask for good 3-mana rocks, or kind of look back at the days when people played 3-mana rocks and think, man,
that's where it's at.
Those were the days.
Yeah, that doesn't happen much these days.
But Cursed Mirror, so you might have, if you listen to the Blue Needs to Be Stopped episode, one of the things that I bemoaned is the ability, the clone mechanic of Blue.
Yeah.
And cards like, what is it, the 2-mana clone.
Phantasmal Image.
That card at baseline, even if you don't ever attack with it, it's just get an ETB for 2 mana.
And that's really good.
That is really good. And having that in the form of Cursed Mirror, that card is really good. And it also gets in and attacks right away, and then it becomes a mana rock.
Yeah, and I'm sure you could do pretty reasonable combos with it, with like stuff that like bounces creatures back to your hand and stuff like that. You can play it again.
Yeah, my baseline, just one of my favorite things that I've ever done with Cursed Mirror is play Sun Titan, get back a Cursed Mirror from my graveyard, make it a Sun Titan, get back another thing. Now the Cursed Mirror Sun Titan has haste.
Attack with that Sun Titan.
It attacks, you get another thing back.
Yeah.
And then you can also, it has Vigilance, so you can tap it for mana after that.
And then it's still a mana rock that sticks around next turn.
So your Sun Titan, if you just like curve into Sun Titan and a couple things you rummage in your graveyard, you effectively, it gives you a mana back, and it gets you up to
6 mana of, or no,
up to 9.
Up to 9.
You get the mirror plus 2 more things.
Yeah.
And that's just, you couldn't do that before.
And you still have your regular Sun Titan just chilling.
Yeah, so I've never been disappointed with that card.
So pick up your copy. I think it's like $5 or something.
Yeah. Well worth it.
So Time Spell Remastered was a cool set that came out this year. I know, Eli, we didn't draft it at all or anything, or even buy any product. I bought some singles from it. But a lot of really cool reprints. I love the old frame. I got old frame cards of like Thraben Inspector, Palace Jailer.
Did you get a Kiki Jiki?
I got a Kiki Jiki, nice. I think. I don't remember. Maybe. I got a Nature's Claim old frame. I really love the old frame cards. There's a lot of really cool ones there. Recommend those a lot. And they're not super pricey for the most part.
Yeah, that was almost a set that I forgot about too, but it was really good for getting good reprints out there.
Oh yeah, I got an old border Resto Angel. It's really nice. Yeah, love it.
Good stuff. Good set.
And then the last set we got to talk about today is the big one.
The best one.
The best one of the year. The best one in recent memory.
Mm-hmm.
Modern Horizons 2. Awesome set. So many cards to talk about.
Yeah, I think, while I might have... I don't know, if I was thinking when Modern Horizons 2 came out if I liked Modern Horizons 1 a little bit more. But I think, looking back, Modern Horizons 2...
Really growing on you?
Yeah, like I made this whole big list of cards, and we're probably not going to talk about every single card.
Just
on the
name
list.
them, yeah.
But, oh my god, Esper Sentinel.
Best white card in, at least since Commander Legends, right?
Yeah.
Maybe even further.
Honestly, I think this is going to be crazy. I'm going to get crucified.
Since Teferi's Protection?
I think, to me, Teferi's Protection is the best white
card.
But
printed since then.
I think Esper Sentinel is better than Smothering Tithe.
So you think it's like top 5 white cards ever?
Possibly for Commander.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a hot take by the way about the Smothering Tithe, but I mean I love me an Esper Sentinel, so great card.
Yeah. Big fan. The Solitude and that cycle
the
of
elementals
with evokes.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. They're all very good. I would say Solitude's the best one.
It's the most expensive one too, I think. I think it's very expensive now. Be careful.
Yeah.
Because modern and stuff, but great card, love it.
Yeah, that whole cycle, very good. I know people are complaining that Fury didn't have flash, Fury and the black one, Grief.
Yeah.
Don't have flash, but that's fine. They're still good.
Grief doesn't have flash for a good reason. They don't like printing hand disruption at instant speed because
it's awkward.
Because then you can do it like on the draw step before they can play their card.
Mm-hmm.
We got Sarah's Emissary. That's a really cool card they made. Archon of Cruelty is the big black kind of reanimation payoff. That's an awesome card.
It's kind of an honorary Titan.
Honorary Titan. It's 8 mana, but
attack.
It does awesome things. I've played it to good success.
Oh my god, Dothy Voidwalker. Are we thankful for this one?
This is a pretty hot button topic, because this is a card that's very divisive. Either you think it's a mistake that they printed, or you're really happy with it. And I'm not sure how I feel, honestly.
It's very powerful.
The only thing is, I've only seen people play it in pretty casual settings, so it hasn't really been a problem, like a big problem. But it has been great. It has been graveyard hate, stopping my skull clamps and stuff like that.
Well, I remember the first time I ever saw it activated. We were playing a game, Spencer, and we got into this big stack battle, kind of counterspell war.
Yeah.
And you and Quinn were countering each other's spells, and I did a deflecting swat. And it was all over somebody's, I think your Clone Legion.
Sure.
And it gets to the end of it, and nobody's really won, I think, but our friend Jesse cracks his Deadly Voidwalker, and he gets the
Clone Legion.
The Clone Legion.
Yeah, he like redirects it to himself.
Yeah.
After everything. And this was out of his Shadow Tribal deck, so this wasn't even like a really crazy, it was in there because it has Shadow. Mm-hmm. So very cool. Great card though. Great card. Really good.
Very good card. Then we have Dam. Very cool modal board wipe.
I love Dam. It's the kind of card that makes me want to play those colors, honestly. It makes me want to play an Orzhov or Orzhov Plus deck because that card just feels good.
Yeah, really cool. We got a couple notable reprints I'm going to shout out here in Modern Horizons 2, namely Patriarch's Bidding and
Imperial Recruiter. Yeah.
Both of which used to be very expensive.
I got my first copy of Imperial Recruiter from this set, and I've been very happy with it. Would not have bought one.
It was at a point, I'm not sure if it is right now, but it was sub $10, which
I think it is. I think it is now.
I remember the first time they reprinted Imperial Recruiter in a master set, and I got one for like $40.
Yeah,
and I was thinking, man, this is gonna be my best shot ever. But yeah, get that card. It's really good. Same with Patriarch's Bidding. That card used to be insanely expensive because it had never been reprinted since like the 90s.
Yeah.
I think its first copy was in
Invasion
Torment.
Torment.
And now that card's like
$1.50, yeah.
So really good. Even in non-tribal decks, like we talked about in the Tribal Trap, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, some cool uncommons in this set. Dragon's Rage Chandler, really cool 1-drop.
Yeah, really good in some of the Spellslinger decks, really good in Modern and Legacy. Oh, Flame Tongue Yearling.
Baby Kavu.
Yeah, Baby Kavu. We love me a Kavu, so no complaints there. Oh, we got Do Shivam Proud, Eli.
Rogavon.
Yeah, Rogavon. The $100 1-drop that everyone wants, every aggro player wants to play but can't afford.
Yeah, I want one so bad. I have it proxied right now to like test out. But I would gladly trade for one if I knew somebody who got one, but nobody did.
Mm-hmm.
So very very good card. Got the Obsidian Charma.
That's kind of it's an interesting card. I don't think many people will play this because it's kind of mean.
I really like the idea of it. I got one because they were like 50 cents. And I was like, that's a steal. This card's so good.
They don't cost anything.
But I have yet to put in a deck because I just don't know what I would play it in because it seems real good.
We got classic Azmoran and Marduka Nick Oldakar.
Yeah, which became sort of a thing that we would say before recording.
Yeah,
tongue twister.
What was it? High School Musical, I think, where they do the ma. Is that High School Musical?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we do. Except we say Azmoran, Marduka and Oldakar. Sometimes loosen the lips, as they say. I just want to mention the suite of planeswalkers in this set were really cool. You got, I believe, off the top of my head, Grist, Dakon, and whatever the Grixis girl's name is. I don't remember her name, but those were all pretty cool. I think Grist is a bit pricey, but Dakon and the Grixis one are like $1 or $2, so you can pick those up if you want something fun.
They are all very unique planeswalkers.
That's what I like about them. They're very cool.
There was a kind of a meme back in the day about modern planeswalker design, how every planeswalker had basically the 3 abilities: the +1
draw a card
advantage, minus
kill
removal,
a thing,
and ultimate win the game.
that do be like that.
It's kind of true, but I'm a big fan of these more niche planeswalker designs that don't go in every deck, but deck on,
or like that 3-mana Kaya that like it's like +1 like exile and like.
Yeah, it's graveyard hate, or it
kill a
exiles a 1-drop or a token.
And then like it's like a -5 for the ultimate.
And its minus doesn't even really do that much, but it's cool. It's utility.
Yeah, they're interesting, at least. Couple more cards, just to mention. We got Priest of Fell Rites. Love that card. Very cool. Void Mirror is interesting.
A lot of people that was pretty divisive.
Yeah.
Thinking it might be oppressive.
For the colorless decks.
Yeah.
And I don't think...
And people getting confused thinking it would shut off them playing their mana rocks when no, you just tap your colored lands.
Yeah. Sword of Hearth and Home. Oh, baby, I love you. I love you. And it's pretty cheap, too. I think it's sub $10 right now.
Yeah.
So...
New Aurelia combo.
Top 3 sword. I would say top 2 sword, personally, but I'd put it at number 2, behind Feast and Famine. You could argue, I guess, by Fire Knights or something, right? Probably. Mm-hmm. But whatever, that's not what we're talking about. Oh, Eli, I know there's a card you want to talk about.
Oh, yeah. So, we are not thankful for this card. Gaia's Will. The Yawgmoth's Will with Suspend 4. 4 turns is forever. Everyone on Magic Twitter, when this set was getting spoiled, the Circle Jerk was bad. The green hate, every green card would come out. It was just...
This was like the time people were like, green gets everything. They get to reprint Gaia's Will.
Yeah, they got a Yawgmoth's Will now? Oh my god, they got a 2-mana Anthem?
Oh yeah.
It's busted.
I just wanted to say, that first of all, that 2-mana Anthem, not a big fan of that one. It's okay, I guess. Mm-hmm. But Gaia's Will, literally poopy dog shit. I've never seen the card to do anything, and I think was the most overrated card in that set for Commander.
I made a Sithis the Harvest Hand deck to pretty much prove a point about how good I thought Sithis might be, just out of cards that I owned, nothing special. And I put Gaia's Will in there. I think I played it one game. Y'all killed me.
Yeah, it did not do
That's
anything.
what that card says. It says, make me die.
Yeah.
It's just really... I have never seen anyone play it.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it ever being good unless maybe, I guess, you cascade into it, maybe.
What is the blue one? Blue one takes someone's creature for... Is it treachery, right?
Yeah.
Or not treachery. What is it? Is it treachery? Is that the card? No.
Bribery,
sorry. I think the blue one might be one of the best ones, or the tutor, I think, are the two really good ones. Yeah, but
even that being... The suspend cards really...
I guess the red one's kind of interesting, too.
Yeah.
Whatever.
They're just... It's telegraphed, and suspend 4 is really... It's
a lot.
Too long. Because say you do that turn 1. That's...
I have a story. This is not Commander, but playing in the pre-release for that set, my opponent suspended that on like turn 3 or 4 or something, and by the time it went off, they had nothing in their graveyard to
exactly.
Cast.
If you do it at the time you should, because you want to make sure you get to those 4 turns in the game, you don't know for sure what's going to be in your graveyard.
Yeah.
So the thing is, you suspend that, and everyone just makes sure they have some graveyard hate.
Sure.
Or then it comes off and it was 1 mana, discard a card.
Yeah.
So, terrible card.
Not a fan. All right, Eli, last but not least, we got fetch lands. Woo!
Fetch lands.
Zendikar fetches, which are, were very pricey, and now they are not pricey, and now the Onslaught fetches / Onslaught / what is it? What's the set? Tarkir, there you go. Yeah. Fetches are the most pricey fetches, which is funny.
Thanks to this set, I have an Arid Mesa for every Boros deck.
Let's go.
And yeah, I don't buy boxes, but this seemed like a good set to crack some packs and
very fun. Yeah,
roll the dice. I think we both bought a box. I got the God box. I got 9 fetch lands.
Pretty based.
It was super based.
Mine wasn't that good, but I'm not complaining too much. Mine was fine. But yeah, I think that's what we got right for the for the thankful for set stuff this year.
Yeah, I think it's been a good year.
Good year, yeah. They was funny. 2020, year of Commander. 2021, also the year of Commander.
The year of EDH Takes.
The year of EDH Takes.
And don't worry, we got 2 more coming, hopefully. Christmas special.
Yep, and another one. So, hey, take care, guys. Follow the Twitter, and subscribe.
What we're most thankful for is all of you for subscribing.
Toughing it out.
Yeah, leaving a comment. Let us know what you think. And, yeah, appreciate it. Follow us on Twitter, like you said, at EDH Takes. And we're going to do more stuff.
Yeah, some new stuff coming.
Yeah.
Get ready. 2022 is the year of EDH takes.
Yeah, watch out.
Watch out.
All right.
Yeah, bye.